Vice President Kamala Harris placed the tie-breaking vote. Joining us now to dig into this, let's welcome Congressman Dan Muser from House Small Business Committee, and along with former CBO Director Doug Holtz-Eakin. Congressman, I want to go ahead and start with you because the President Vice President Kamala Harris placed the tie-breaking Vice President Kamala Harris placed the tie-breaking vote. Joining us now to dig into this, let's welcome Congressman Dan Muser from House Small Business Committee, and along with former CBO Director Doug Holtz-Eakin. Congressman, I want to go ahead and start with you because the president said when Americans sit down at the kitchen table and they start to figure things out at the end of the month, things are going to be better. Yet even Bernie Sanders acknowledges that because of the models that are out there from the CBO, the Penn-Wharton model, that actually inflation is probably going to go up in the next 2 years. And Americans are suffering right now as it is with inflation at a 40-year high. So how is it that the president can just stand there and willfully, essentially tell an untruth to the American people?
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. This bill is a terrible shame, and it's unusual to be agreeing with Bernie Sanders, of course. I mean, this is an enormous power grab by the federal government. It is, in fact, filling the left's, the woke agenda coffers, because they frankly know they're going to lose in November and they'll still have money to spend, Jackie. And your question is a very good one. Who does it help, Mr. President? I'd really like to know, because all this bill does is spends on green energies, so it will help their friends in the in those industries and help those who put the Green New Deal as their most important issue. It will help build wind turbines, which don't stand on their own if we're not for subsidies. It increases the size of the IRS. How does that help anybody, Mr. President? It doubles the size of the IRS at a cost of $80 billion. So, and on top of that, taxes, which certainly just get passed along. This is a big government socialism versus free market capitalism. And unfortunately, big government socialism is winning right now.
Doug, the way I see it, the average American is going to suffer as a result of this, at least in the short term. I think the models are looking at it correctly. The expansion of the IRS that the congressman points at, it seems like, our leadership essentially is looking at the average American as a piggy bank to tap into, to pay for its climate agenda, to pay for more health care for people across the board. And people are getting fed up with it. As a matter of fact, it's showing in the polling numbers. When it comes to President Biden and his job on the economy, 29% only approve on how he's handling inflation, 37% approve of how he's handling the economy, 69% say the economy is getting worse. Your thoughts?
Well, the average American will bear a lot of the burden of this particular bill. There's no question about it. On the inflation front, this is going to push inflation up and not down. And I just remind you, Jackie, and the listeners, that while everyone's been focused on the IRA, Congress has passed a $300 billion science plus chips bill. It's passed an up to $600 billion veterans bill. It's $1 trillion of deficit spending. So Congress is up to the usual things, which is spend now and worry about it later. So the inflation push is going to be very real.
Yeah.
Tax increases, everyone says it's corporation income tax, doesn't affect individuals. The nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation took a look at this and said half of that will be borne by individuals who make less than $400,000. So your effective standard of living is going down from the taxes, it's going down from the inflation, and that's real pain for the average American.
Yeah, and when it came to this bill, Joe Manchin flip-flopped. First, he said he would not vote for anything that was going to increase inflation, Congressman. Then it was up to Kyrsten Sinema. And what I found particularly interesting was that Sinema focused on the carried interest loophole. She did not want to close it. That's what was in this bill. And as a matter of fact, they took that out. Protecting who? Protecting the hedge funds, protecting high-income earners that take advantage of that. And I find that staggering that that was what she focused on to make sure she could keep her high-earning donors on board versus looking at the average American here. But having said that, when it comes to Sinema, when it comes to Joe Manchin, former President Donald Trump was vowing to campaign against both of them, Manchin specifically this weekend. Watch this soundbite.
Joe Manchin has totally sold West Virginia out. What he's done to West Virginia, I don't believe they're going to stand for it. I'll go down and campaign against him as hard as anybody can.
Say what you want to say about President Trump, but Congressman, everybody says this was the last nail in the coffin. A red wave is coming, and Congress will turn over in November. Your thoughts?
You know, it is, and there's not going to be any positive effects from this. So the American people are going to see that. Yet at the same time, we have a massive, tragic new level of spending after spending trillions to get out of COVID. And then the Biden folks come in with their rescue plan, which accelerated inflation. And they're putting the fuel on the fire because this is what got us there. And now they're adding taxes to it. So we're artificially increasing demand, and we are putting a burden on domestic production. So supply will go down, demand will go up, inflation will increase.
Yeah, and speaking of the supply-demand model specifically when it comes to energy, Doug, I just want to finish up with you because there are economists out there who are essentially saying that, or warning, if you will, that the Inflation Reduction Act is nothing but deceptive marketing. This is coming from a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation saying, quote, "The greatest example of deceptive marketing today is the name that Democrats have chosen for this piece of legislation." He goes on to say it does absolutely nothing to address the problem of inflation. When you look at the climate change initiatives in this bill, for example, is that going to help us at the pump as we try to funnel money over to alternative energy rather than get our domestic suppliers to supply more oil domestically so that prices come down? No, the economists are saying your gas prices are going to either stay as high as they are or go higher from here.
Certainly, those provisions are not intended to help with gasoline prices or oil prices in general. They were supposed to accelerate the use of alternative fuels and have cleaner cars. The problem here is that even those climate incentives were badly distorted by the White House's pro-union objectives. And you get these extra bonus points for using union labor and everything that really undercut the ability to have an efficient renewable power system. So that's not desirable at all. And the entire strategy is unlikely to work. And so now we're sinking hundreds of billions of dollars into a strategy that wouldn't deliver any genuine climate benefits. And I think that's an enormous problem because this is the issue the president said was his top priority. Yeah. And he continually lets it get undercut by other things.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Congressman Dan Mueser, Doug Holtz-Eakin, great to see you both. Thank you.